Thanks for everyone that's jumping on, and super happy to be here. The world needs more programs like this. This is where the real magic happens, and it begins with families. So I've got a deck of slides I'm going to throw up, and we're going to go kind of through the journey of me, and then talk kind of transitional living as a whole and what I'm a part of today. And then from what I understand, we'll get to do some questions. So jumping right in here, I'm a person in long-term recovery. I started the journey of recovery when I was 18. I'm 27 today. March 1st of 2014 was the game-changing day for me. And recovery has afforded me a life that I am absolutely amazed by. It's provided a pathway for me to be around beautiful things and great people, and recognize those things and those people for who they are, the way that the world's always wanted me to see. Much different from being in those same places and seeing those same people, but having a great sense of ego and pride and desire to get what I want, and lack of awareness of the opportunity that was there. Recovery's afforded me the chance to reconnect with passions that I care for, and go through great experiences and achieve milestones and accomplishments in areas of my life that when I was struggling, I thought I had lost. It's created a platform for me to be a son and a brother that I can be proud of, and a wife and a dad. And I think what's extremely relevant today around all those things is this magic of having a job that I love, and being around a group of colleagues in this picture with the crowd here that embrace a value system in a way that I try my best to, and care for others. And if you showed me these pictures 9 years ago and said, this is going to be the story of your life, I would not believe it. There's no possible way that could be me or would be me. And the reality of what has allowed these things to be part of my life is really quite simple. It's just my process for getting there, and being willing to embrace the direction came with a lot of pain. So I grew up outside of Philadelphia. Really awesome family, a lot of recovery in my family. Got a dad with 30 years of sobriety. He's got a dad, my grandfather, with 50 years of sobriety. And I grew up with access and opportunity to a lot of really great things, a lot of great educational opportunities, sports teams, vacations. Privilege was present. And regardless of my stage of life and my engagement with substances, for most of my life, I can pretty confidently say that, like, my approach to those experiences were not, there was no humility present. It was a lot of asking for more, feeling like I deserved more, and being willing to leverage the people and the relationships I had to get that. When I was 14 or 15, I started drinking. And by the time I was 18, I had just dropped out of college on a lacrosse scholarship, and I was at home with no structure, nothing to point to convince the world I was doing okay. And I was selling drugs to support my habit. And the whole thing kind of came crashing down. What got me to that point was a lot of what I imagine what everyone here has heard. It was something that began as this pursuit to have fun, this desire to find balance, and quickly became just a life where I wasn't really trying to get high. I was just trying to not be sober. And there was depression and pain and anxiety and a series of excuses and mild consequences that came in front of me, where I was really good at shaping a narrative to victimize myself. There's a person in my recovery network now that says, in recovery meetings, he says something like, there's people out there that can create enough pain in their life where they choose to stop, And then there's people who need to be stopped. And I always related to that guy that needed to be stopped. And so I had a whole gang of detectives roll into my kitchen on a Friday night and essentially tell me that the show was over. And I remember my mom standing next to me as those detectives kind of delivered the news, saying something like, "There's nothing you could have done that will make me not love you." And that's really where the journey began for me. I think this next picture is a great visual to summarize how I think about my chapter of early recovery, which one could kind of conclude that it's just a mess, and it's anger and rage and frustration. And a lot of what I experienced was what I see young guys go through, which is being dysregulated with their emotions and not having clarity on what the future is going to hold or what they want or how they can get there. And there were people in my life that were essentially telling me the direction I had to take, and I didn't know if what they were saying was true. So in this period, I was out on bail, which was expected to be for about a year. And I ended up going to treatment for 30 days. So I went to res treatment. I somehow managed to dodge transitional living and get myself back into my parents' house, where I had a platform to kind of embrace a parent contract and try to integrate these principles of recovery into my life. A lot of what I experienced is very similar to the important principles that we work around at Synergy today, or my program, which is getting positioned in front of people that make recovery look attractive. I spent a lot of time in 12-step meetings, working with a sponsor, going to meetings. I engaged in a platform of clinical work with a therapist. More than anything, I think back to those chapters of my life and feel like the progress was made, not so much in the days where I was doing the right thing, but mostly the days where I was not feeling great or not doing the right thing, and somehow managed to dodge another crisis created by me. I was really lucky. I had a people around me that were willing to answer the phone and take me to diners and do different things with me to free me from the chaos that my head was feeling at that time. Sorry. And then so as I went through kind of those chapters, another big piece for me was integrating a lot of structure and routine. People in my family and support said things like, "You're going to get a job, you're going to exercise." I didn't want to do it, but I did it. I think through that experience, I was never excited or felt like what I was going to be doing outside of just gathering days of recovery was going to be experience I was going to be able to leverage in my future. But what I came to find is that it was simple things that led to building self-esteem, making your bed, taking the trash out, like cleaning up after myself, showing up to work. I worked at a flower shop for a long period of time, not necessarily doing things that were flashy that were going to impress other people, but just doing what I was told because that's what I had to revert to. I ended up spending 11 months kind of through that chapter where I went to a sentencing hearing. And in that sentencing hearing, about 100 people I had met in that year in recovery came to support me, which is really amazing. Like, people that showed up not because they believed the bullshit that I was selling the world, which is what I was so used to, but they showed up because they cared, because people showed up for them at one point. Lots of people wrote letters. They spoke on my behalf. At the end of the day, a judge sent me off for a little over 9 months. So I went off to jail and served 7 months of sobriety, or 7 months of sobriety, seven months of jail time. That was a humbling experience. Exposed me to a part of the world that I had never touched and taught me some lessons, but was also difficult to embrace the principles of recovery throughout that journey. And then when I got out of school, a lot of what you guys saw on that first slide started to come at play. Relationships with family grew back, becoming comfortable with who I am and what I was going to do became more relevant. Girlfriend turns into a fiance, turns into a wife. Super lucky to go back to college, find success in a classroom in a way that was super foreign to me, given the way I approached school before recovery. And really just, everything that people told me was possible started to play out. By no means have I been perfect or am I perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've been lucky to have a support system to work through those. And through the back half of my time at college, I was trying to figure out what did I want to do in the world. And that's really where I got to this idea of building a transitional living program, which is where we'll kind of pivot and still kind of talk about me, but get into just those concepts. So my kind of definition around transitional living is really this experience where resources exist around recovery to help people make better decisions. And some of the things that were really relevant to me that I saw before I started this venture was the lack of regulation and oversight that exists in transitional living. Much different from other sectors within the treatment industry. It was really clear to me that there was bad financial alignment, that programs are not always incentivized to make decisions in favor of the care of the people they serve. But sometimes people are financially incentivized to make decisions to keep their beds full, which more than anything is going to directly conflict with how to serve people well and how to build sustainable culture. And then it was also really clear to me that experiences have a wide range of quality of care and cost factors. So where Synergy is today is much different than where it started, but the super high level overview is that we really have 3 departments. We have a men's and women's flagship programs, which are separate, which are really kind of our bread and butter, really highly structured, highly supportive environments for young men and women in early recovery around substance use and mental health. We also have a collegiate recovery step down program for men's. And then we have a whole division that I'm not going to talk about much other than this, which we call family services, where we do interventions and transports and coaching for families who are in a state of crisis different from where their loved one might fit into Synergy. When I was traveling and starting to gather this concept of what was going to be created, I was lucky, right? I got to meet with different people that I respected that had been working in the industry for a while. And I would ask questions and they would ask me questions. And at the end of the day, a couple of people said the same thing, just in different ways, which were essentially this statement that the best places are built around certain types of people, much different from continuums and programs that are more of a template where they offer what they have for anyone. And what I've always felt really passionate about is this idea of wanting to have a really strong impact, and that impact being measured by the success of our clients, which will be driven by our outcomes. And so this concept of building a program around a person, I'm obsessed with. For us, it's young adult men, it's young adult women. It's this space where we're struggling with substance use, mental health is at play, but we're also in this area of life that a lot of people call emerging adult or failure to thrive, where usually the person of concern is longing for autonomy and responsibility around their adult lives, but the track record shows this financial and emotional dependence on family that's creating a lot of relationship challenges between family and person of concern. The person of concern doesn't want to be there. The family doesn't want them to be there. Um, and, uh, and we need to get it right and work our way out of it. And so that's what it's around. And, I think more than anything, what I know is that, any place, any good experience I've had in recovery, outside of recovery in general, like, it's the people that make it special. It's the people that drive culture. They drive connection. You know, what's at play and what's relevant are where's the place? How nice is it? What are the services? There's a scenario where, within the market, right? I think a lot of us might be familiar with like a really simple $200 a week bare bones recovery house. I know plenty of people who have been in those programs, and there's 4 or 5 guys that have around a year of sobriety, and they're really solid people. They live by a set of values that they're passionate about, and it creates this incredible experience for newcomers to come in and really get immersed in that system. When people ask me, like, how does this whole thing at Synergy work? And I have 20 seconds to explain it, I say it's actually really simple. This is transitional living, which means that our main focus is how to live, and how to live primarily exists outside of the clinical space. And so the most important thing is that we hire people who are great examples of what it means to live a life that's attractive in recovery, and model behaviors that are in touch with what we're trying to teach. And if we can successfully do that, we're going to be positioning these people in front of others who have a desire to heal. And when we incorporate process and intention and resource within those people that are healthy and those that need to heal, together we get better. And it's literally that simple. And so a lot of what we focus on is, who are the people, what kinds of decisions do they make, how do they care for others, and can they get behind the style that we embrace. When folks come to us, I think these goals are really relevant for pretty much anyone. One of my opinions is, like, it's not a secret what works. I think what really differs in programs is going to be how many services are offered, and in what way do they try to teach what works. And for us, it's these 3 simple things: build a portable recovery, get engaged in a 12-step community, get involved around other people that make recovery look attractive, build a support network way beyond the people that you live with and the staff that you reach, have a clinical program that's specific to you, that's going to help you unpack the past and identify your challenges, and build out folks that you can be brutally honest with in a safe place with professionals that are there to help. Number 2, this idea of executing and learning the skills of adulthood. We tell families all the time, like, they say, families call, or we're on update calls, and they say things like, when am I going to know if my son's ready to come home or ready for his next chapter? And, we say things like, what's your confidence level around him moving into an apartment building right now and paying his electric bill? And then we get to the root real quick. And so a lot of what we focus on is right next to the recovery principles of do the right thing, be honest, is let's learn a skill set that's extremely needed to thrive once we have a recovery that's solid and grounded the way we want. And we do it in a personalized way, one-on-one with a lot of case managers and program directors. And then this third piece is, arguably the most important. We got to have fun, right? Like, it's so hard. We've all been to too many funerals. We've heard too many folks that have struggled. Like, we can make 80% of the right choices and still fail. Like, there's not a lot of objectives out there where that's the way the cards fall. And to create experiences where men and women can disconnect from this idea of how they feel, or what was in the past, or what's right now, or where are things going, and just have some fun. It's got to happen. We do it with sporting events and activities and music studios and art engagements and a variety of different things. This is the stuff that I get really excited about. In transitional living, it's this idea of like, what's the philosophy? Our program as a whole is very data driven. It's all about what kinds of decisions you make, action-based progression. And then within that, there's a really high level of transparency and consistency, particularly with young people. I think I come from the perspective where I think people really struggle with this idea of not having control, and constantly craving to have control. And our philosophical approach doesn't necessarily give control to our clients in what they get to do or how they get to drive their treatment, but it gives them a platform to have agency over what productivity looks like. It gives them a platform to have agency over understanding what objectives need to be met in order to meet certain criteria to get where they want to go. I think where I see people struggle, or I hear people talk about experiences they've had in the past, probably more so for folks who have been in treatment continuums for a long period of time, is this idea of like being bait and switched by family into participating in treatment, right? We say things like, if you go to treatment for 30 days, you can come home. And then we get to the end of treatment for 30 days and families saying like, at the time, I didn't really know the information. I think we need to take the recommendation and go in a different way. Our approach is one where we really want to avoid putting young men and women in scenarios where they feel that way. And we do so by putting a lot of support around family and coaching them on like, how do we have these conversations? And how can we be as clear and as transparent about what the goals are right now to make that happen? Culture focused is the other big piece, which to me is this idea of like recognizing when decisions are made, how it's going to impact other people, recognizing that it's really normal for folks in early recovery to compare themselves to others. And when precedents are set, there needs to be a standard there around where consistency and transparency lies. Accountability is probably the biggest buzzword in sober living as a whole. It's extremely important. It's extremely relevant. I think the most important piece of accountability is how it's delivered and in what fashion. And my style and how we deliver it at Synergy is always with shame, blame, and guilt outside the picture, but with a lot of clarity, consistency, and transparency. And we also believe in this idea of building blocks in pursuit of holding people accountable. And this chart really depicts that, where we have, the accountability level on the blue and red line, and then down at the bottom would be someone's journey throughout our program. And we really differentiate the accountability from recovery to life skills. So recovery would be making your bed, showing up on time, being honest with a therapist, and attending 12-step meetings, do what you say and say what you do. Life skills would be how you manage your money, how you balance your responsibilities for structure, your school, your work with recovery. It would be how you follow through on your obligations that you committed to family or your peers on. And we emphasize this idea of accountability for recovery staying the same, consistent throughout, but then elevating the accountability around life skills as we build foundation within recovery. And this approach allows us to meet people where they are, and doesn't make any sense to grind someone's gears for buying a Red Bull every day in their first 2 weeks in a program if they're having a hard time making their bed. Just doesn't make sense. We're not going to get where we want to go. And so we thoughtfully think through on a personalized level to what extent can we recognize where they need to be met with resource and support, and integrate that in so that we can accomplish a platform where we can get where we want to go. All of this stuff boils down to, what's really happening, like what's the outcome of the people that experience that journey. And I think where I come from in this is that, like, we need more people to publish outcomes and talk about outcomes and consider what's happening. This is a snapshot of the experiences that our men had in our men's program last year. It emphasizes a wide range of, length of stay from, where are the clients coming from, who's completing treatment, who's engaging in treatment. 7% of our guys are using substances at Synergy and going to other programs. 10% of our guys are not engaging or work in school. The average age, these different pieces. I think more than anything, the industry as a whole needs guardrails around how to supervise and steer programs to make decisions with these elements in mind. And when people deviate from what's going to produce experiences where these numbers are going to be better, we're not serving people the right way. A lot of the folks that experienced this program moved into our collegiate recovery program, which is a step down from our men's flagship. This is really cool. Like one of my favorite parts about my job is being around this kind of sub community of 15 guys. I think right now the average length of sobriety of those 15 guys is like 18 months. And some of them show up and play soccer on our soccer team on Monday nights, and other guys, one of the guys called me on my way home tonight and wants to buy like a big plastic tub to do ice baths in the backyard. And he's just living a sober life, having a good time. And it's amazing. And they produce incredible work in the classroom by simply integrating the principles of recovery into their life. It's that simple. There's not a tremendous amount of academic support. There's a little bit of checks and balances around their engagement in recovery and their work, but they do amazing things, and we're super proud of them. And they serve as really solid cultural rocks to the newcomers that are here. So that's me. That's Synergy. Thank you guys for listening, and happy to answer any questions you all have.
I'll ask the first one. I just would be interested, Timmy, if you could expand a little bit on the support that you provide to families, because you do feel that the family system is so important. And I believe you said, as far as your own recovery went, that your family was right there. I don't know if your parents attended Al-Anon meetings or anything like that, but you have two times a month, there's a virtual, or every 2 weeks, there's a virtual parent support meeting. So if you could just talk about the
Sure.
family.
Yeah, so we schedule family update calls every 2 weeks. So we have consistent touch points around understanding where, informing our parents on what's going on in the lives of our clients, and then also asking our parents their experiences around their clients. We also have a family support group on Wednesday nights that's led by a licensed clinician for families that have sons or daughters at Synergy. And then there's different, within the range of philosophies around treatment. There's one philosophy that I just refer to as like glass box recovery, which is that we're gonna contain you and insulate you and prevent you from making mistakes to give you a platform to just rack up sober time. And I don't, that's not Synergy. That's not what we subscribe to. Rather, we're in another position where we believe conflict is really important. It's really relevant. It's just under what condition and with what supports around. So a lot of the family progress that we see is really driven through real-time engagement, where our clients are interacting with our families and it's creating conflict. And there's established relationships between our case managers, our program directors, and in real time, we're having phone calls, working through it, providing education, and looking kind of from afar at the picture to try to either achieve the goal at play here. Sometimes it's de-escalating, other times it's helping the son or daughter receive a boundary that's going to be new and uncomfortable for them. Other times it's asking a parent to kind of stay in their lane and remind them, like, you don't need to referee your son or daughter's recovery. because you can rely on us and we're going to take care of that for now. So that's the background, but good, good question. Really important part.
You're a firm believer in boundaries.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think, when I was at my house in recovery, there were some moments where I would go to an AA meeting and then I would maybe hang out for 45 minutes after. I'd come home and I'd walk in the door and my mom would say something like, "Where were you?" And at that moment, it was over. I knew I was being, accused of doing something that I, rightfully so. That's who I was as a person. And so it's really important to kind of have those boundaries and work through it.
We have a number of parents who usually aren't shy, and we have a question from Ann.
I got it.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Ann Dixon. Tim, we haven't met, but you know my son. My son Will is living in the collegiate house, and he has been there since August. And he is 2 years sober at this point, a little over 2 years. So I'm just I guess I'm sort of a testimonial here to the success that our children can have. He's in college full time, was playing hockey. Season just ended. He's home right now for break, out with his friends, out with our car. And grateful for where we are. So that is our story. Anything you want to add?
Sure. What I want to talk, Timmy, thank you. Our son has thrived this academic year being at the collegiate house with you. I know you didn't want to touch on it, but the other thing I wanted to tell this group is, we had an experience with a friend of our son. Timmy's program sent an interventionist to a individual in the community here. Our son was a part of the intervention. The good part of the story is it was a very quick intervention. The individual decided to go to a 30-day program. At the end of the 30-day program, I think he's been with the Synergy program for about 3 months now.
Almost 6.
3 to 6 months. And everything we've heard, he's having a fantastic experience with Synergy. So going through the program. So in addition to our son going through the collegiate recovery, really good outcomes. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, yeah, a question comment. First of all, you don't know me, Timmy, I'm Nicole, but my son Eric and his dad Matthew Fewer came to your program about a year ago. We loved your program for our son, but he was not ready. And we've been on this journey for 5 years. My comment is my son is a week sober in Delray, and we had put him into so many programs, so many sober livings. And including yours, every program, this isn't right, that isn't right. This is the first time where he has not complained once. And it's more of a comment, and I'd love your advice on this. I believe he's not complaining because it's the first time he's actually ready. I think all the complaints he had was simply him trying to tell us, I don't want to be sober. And we've had that struggle for 5 years. And I'm not whether maybe it's over. I don't think so. But I guess my question is how do you work with someone like that when someone's clearly resistant? Their parents are putting them there over and over again. What is your advice to parents that have that situation?
Yeah, that's the $1 million question.
Okay.
I'll give it my best stab, which is, I think what's extremely difficult to achieve, but possible, is for families to have stability, serenity, and purpose in life, even when their loved ones are struggling. And so to accomplish that is a whole load of interpersonal work, which includes coming to groups like this, that everyone tonight is on that journey. And then for the people that are struggling, the sons or daughters or family members, I think we all probably know that there's like, the 3 C's: can't cure it, didn't cause it. And someone can fill in the other one. Geez, I'm missing it. But
Control now.
exactly, can't control it. Thank you. And so the trying to just accept and disconnect from that part of it, super hard, but important. And then for young guys that are not particularly interested in doing the work or willing to do the work, people have strong opinions about this. My opinion is that someone who does not want to find sobriety can still find sobriety. That was my journey. I did not want what was being offered to me. I was in enough pain where I was willing to do the direction that day to try to get to the next stage. And sometimes there's a whole host of work just about teaching someone how to take direction the right way before they can even have a platform to take direction. And it makes the runway a lot longer. And then I think it's really important that families, model the behavior that we're looking to help teach and stay strong on boundaries. I see people struggle for a longer period of times when family draws a boundary, said person steps over the line, family steps back, draws another line. Like those kinds of things make it hard. And guys like me and the others that struggle, we're really good at getting our families to step back and draw another line.
Thanks. Yeah, it's the right answer, I believe, but it's such a hard one to swallow as parents. We want to be like, this is what you got to do. This is what works. But I appreciate that. I know what you're saying is great. Thank you.
Thanks. James.
Hey, how you doing, Tim? James, I just wanted to thank you for your presentation and your experience. I myself am in management for a nonprofit in Southern California, where it's called Newhouse, and it's been around since 1956. And my question is more geared towards, the latter end of your presentation was about the age group that you seem to be having, because in our house right now, right, we have 100 clients in total between 2 houses, and the age group is definitely starting to get more young. And what I mean by that is it seems like the awareness or the facilitating of change through the family is much more uniform, and them understanding that the supportive environment that you're talking about is required for them to have that psychic shift, that energetic shift, so that they can build this new chapter, as I like to tell them, right? That's like you're a blank canvas and now you can draw your future, But my question really is geared towards, we have a lot of older clientele here. So I was just wondering your advice for individuals that say don't have the support system of family and stuff like that, and are as a last ditch attempt, right? Like what advice could you give me for maybe trying to help them? Because we're a really loving and supportive environment, right? Like we wouldn't have been around for as long as we have if our mission of love wasn't the same, right? But I would just wonder, what's your advice for older individuals that I guess are lone wolves in the world? Like what would you what kind of advice would you have?
That's a great question. I think people that are in that position are they can have a much more difficult time finding success if they're not willing to do the work themselves, right? Like Nicole's assuming that Nicole's son there's a lot more leverage points to influence his direction, and which creates more opportunity for him to have access and engagements around participating in treatment that can lead to change. And for older folks who are independent, they're fully independent. And so in the credit card's not, there's no person to shut off the credit card when they want to go cowboy. They're just going to go cowboy. And so I think the challenge becomes just the same for young adults, is supporting them to get immersed in the solution to an extent where then they're going to long for that to be a part of their life more than they're going to be interested or open to trying another way that could cause more harm.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I myself, right, I'm 36 and I've been in recovery for a few years now. And, it didn't take me, it took me a second to understand that, no one wanted anything from me other than the best version of myself. And, I think I definitely got that energy from you that, the mission statement of you guys is to just because you and I have been through it to allow the understanding that like there's a way out, and I guess from my own experience, the way out was through. So I just wanted to thank you again for your amazing presentation. So.
Thank you.
I see some people on this Zoom that usually have questions. Oh, Lisa?
Hi, Timothy. My name is Lisa. I have a son who is in recovery. And so two questions. One of our last sessions we had was about the collegiate recovery program at a couple different universities around the country. And I don't know if you're familiar with that at all. And if you are you able to share any thoughts on the difference of your program versus those that are within universities?
Mhm.
And step two is your program. What are your parameters for someone to come into that program if they haven't gone through your transitional program?
Sure. So our collegiate program is independent from the CRCs, which I'm not super familiar with what your last webinar was about, but I'm assuming that's kind of the collegiate recovery tracks that exist within universities.
Yeah.
We have 30 universities within 20 miles of our collegiate program. And so my experience with collegiate recovery programs internally is they can be extremely robust with a payroll budget and cool facilities, and they can be a closet that says collegiate recovery with nothing inside. And so we are familiar and friendly with the CRC programs that are local, and there's pathways for our residents that are in the college program to get involved in the university they're at. But of the 15 guys that are in our collegiate program, we represent 7 different universities right now. I think of those 7 universities, 4 of them have CRC programs. Of those 4, I think only one of them is more than a closet door. And so the difference is going to be we have a lot more control over how to shape community and culture, and the criteria, which is a segue into kind of the criteria to live in that program. At the highest level, our collegiate program is a place for someone who has already built a portable recovery, not someone that is in a place where they need to build a portable recovery. So there are folks who have completed other programs, or they have established recovery and they come in, and there's other folks that are 80% there, and they come in and they have a level of support through kind of recovery coaching and some other creative support systems to make sure that they're going to find success the right way. So there's kind of a pathway here where we get a lot of the same community and cultural elements that exist in CRC programs, but we can also access the ones that are here. And then we have a threshold of criteria around where someone's recovery needs to be, but there's also a little bit of room for us to integrate some extra support if they're not quite there.
Am I on? Hi. Hi, I'm Bruce. My question is, do you have experience with medically assisted situations where, buprenorphine or yes, my stepson's in recovery for a couple of years, but he's 37, and I don't know what that means or doesn't mean to a program like yours.
Mm-hmm. Good question. So we Synergy as a whole historically has had very, very few clients that are on forms of buprenorphine. In the select cases, it's always been Sublocade, and they've always been working with docs for a period of time where they're looking to come off of it. So we're facilitating the landing runway for them to come off of it.
How about Vivitrol, Timmy?
Yeah, great question. So we actually have like it's not a requirement, but if there was something as close as a requirement could be, if you have an extensive opioid use history, we really encourage you to be on Vivitrol. And so that has a big part here. We have some really good resources, some people that will actually come out to some program sites and administer once a month. And then so I'm a big fan of and believer in Vivitrol.
And how about antabuse?
We've never had any clients on antabuse. I haven't ever really, I'm familiar with it, but I haven't seen it much from any of the res programs coming out. It's mostly Vivitrol.
I also wanted to ask about cannabis use disorder and whether you have clients where cannabis is the primary drug of dysfunction, so to speak, and just is there any specialized path that you use for the cannabis use disorder?
Our census trends very strongly towards drug of choice, marijuana, and alcohol as a whole, I would say. Do we have any specific resources or strategies around those folks compared to others? We do not. I mean, I think there's a little more awareness around like all that bullshit you can get at bodegos. That's basically the same stuff, like the dust and the K2 and the kratom and all that. Like there's a little more awareness around that and just application of kind of keeping your guardrails up. But the personalized pieces are really going to be like clinically life skills, and then us getting a sense of what's the best way they embrace and respond to accountability and information and cater it that way. But we haven't seen any trends particularly to cannabis use disorder.
Okay, I mean, and you can argue that sometimes that the cannabis use is because of underlying co-occurring issues, and that may be more the case, that there might be more mental health related needs. So you must have a variety of mental health related needs for your residents. Is there anything that you could say about that?
Yeah, I would say probably 90% of our census is co-occurring. The three probably biggest components of that are adequate psych services, disciplined and accurate evaluations. I can't tell you how many guys I've seen who come to Synergy with a diagnosis that sounds like bipolar 1, and they're with us for 6 months and they get reevaluated and it's a misdiagnosis. Happens all the time. Medication compliance and process around that is really disciplined in our systems, just around observation by staff and lock boxes and the right recording, so that we can validate that people are following the psych plan. And then the other piece of there's an old school, it wouldn't be uncommon for an old school 12-step person to say something like, that guy didn't do the steps right if he struggled. And in today's world, that's a really old school approach. And I think what we see a lot more is the complexity and acuity is way higher, and people are struggling with mental health. And if those pieces are not addressed the right way, we're going to have a really hard time learning how to apply some more mainstream principles of recovery. So Synergy is a 12-step based program, and we that runs within our blood with our staff and our alumni. But there's also got to be some awareness from us around our expectation for someone to engage in a detailed way if they're struggling to find stability around their mental health.
You had a statistic, something that was 93% IOP. What was that statistic?
So it's 93% of our clients completed IOP. So it's
Okay.
a measure of from start to finish, how many of our guys, attend group therapy, go to the sessions, get all the way to complete, and then step down into a lower level of care.
Okay, and so how do you provide your IOP? Do you have a partner organization?
So we have a partnership with a local shop, really good program, really good people. And then we have some processes between our program directors and the IOPs to cascade information back and forth every day. So some of our women's program, there's a special group just for the women. Our men's program, there's 2 groups, and we work kind of in conjunction with each other pretty tight.
Yeah, I'm sure you'd say that's key to the whole success of it.
Yeah, I think the recovery matrix is just how I think about it. It's not just case management. It's not just clinical. It's not just 12-step. It has to be a factor of them all. It's not, family needs to be there, relational touch points, experiences, and the clinical piece is a really, really important piece of that matrix.
Well, I keep having questions if no one else does. Usually we have people. Anita, do you have a question?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, sure, Paul. Thanks. And thanks to
Thank
Timmy
you.
for this. Just real quick, is there any like a prerequisite before getting into the program, like a 30-day required, something like that?
Yeah, great question. So the admissions process is it's really 3 parts. It's usually a discussion with the referent if they're coming from a treatment program or treatment provider. It's a discussion with family, and then it's an assessment with the person who would be potentially admitting, and that process is what drives eligibility. The best fits are when within those 3 conversations they all paint the same picture. And so the referent's describing the person who's struggling the same way as the family describes, the same way as the person who describes themselves. And so there's, I would say 85% of our clients are coming from residential programs, either 30-day, 90-day, wilderness. The other 15%, when they're coming, they're not bypassing residential, but they've either been recently, they went home, or they're in another program. And it's not the right fit for them. There was a parent contract and they broke the contract, or they're in a stage where they're willing to do the work, but they're struggling with the resources they have at that time.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I had another question, if that's all right.
Yeah,
I'm hearing a lot. You said that you do a lot of like clinical work and stuff like that. But in the recovery community, right, there's giving it up to something greater than yourself. Like, do you guys practice meditation? Do you guys have any type of way for them to naturally be able to possibly look at the emotions or look at the anxiety that they might be having in the moment within themselves, to then be able to bring to the forefront of you and your staff and all that kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, great question. So we have programming in our facilities from 9 a.m. until 3 p.m., which is on all non-clinical. If someone has clinical responsibilities at those time periods, though, that clinical work will trump what we're doing. But we have a wellness coordinator that's coming in twice a week to do yoga and meditation. We're running peer-based recovery groups. Yes, on Friday we're short-staffed, and I'm going to go in and facilitate a trivia showdown in our men's program between 2 teams of 12, and people will be yelling and screaming and laughing. And so there's a wide variety of ways to get in touch with yourself. And one of them being an emphasis on meditation and interpersonal breathing work and connectivity.
awesome. Yeah, because I'm sure as you experience, that was a turning point for me, to just be able to actually sit with myself for a second, let alone an extended period of time. So awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.